Hello, surgical robotics fans. We are at the mid-year point. It's a mid-year review day today, so I'm going to cover the mid-year review, try and go through some stuff, some of the predictions I had that I've either have not come true yet, they're a bit late, or are completely wrong, which I am quite often. But it's mid-year, and it's not just mid-year. It's actually, so this is a really interesting fact. June the 4th now, we are closer to 2050 than we are to the year 2000. So we are actually closer to the year 2050 than we are to the year 2000. Let that sink in. Pretty amazing. This year's just flown by. It's been like really fast. And I've done things like Device Talks Boston. I've had some other things that I've done like Einstein down in Brazil. It's been amazing. It's, as I said and predicted, it's been a very exciting year for surgical robotics. What though I want to do is cover some of the stuff that is going on, that might be going on, that's still probably to come, some changing predictions that I've got now that I've got more information, and try and just do a roundup of where we are on the mid-year. And it has gone quickly. I cannot believe that we're into the summer period and there's a lot of people already going off on vacation. There's a lot of people who will now be away until something like SRS, and I do want to see you all at SRS. That would be great. So there's a couple of things I predicted, and I will go and show some of the things that I laid out there. But some of the themes are accelerating really fast. So one of the ones that I talked about was artificial intelligence in surgical robotics. That is growing faster. The amount of research that's going on into this is absolutely staggering. And again, you know, sometimes AI can be a little bit bullshitty, a little bit kind of nebulous about what it's doing and what it actually is and what it's capable of. But as we're seeing out in the commercial world, and I would say that that's the consumer world, AI is going at a clip. Video is coming at speed. Image is coming at speed. New large language models, Claude 4 is pretty impressive. So we're starting to get tools that you're going to see more and more coming into surgical robotics, be that in soft tissue, hard tissue, endoluminal, and we can talk about that a little bit. And I will probably show a slide or two from my device talks talk later when I talk about, you know, where we are sort of mid-year. So what I really wanted to get into today was a little bit of just reviewing what's happened so far this year and where I think we're going to go with surgical robotics in the next 12 months as well. And no surprise, no surprise, is that Intuitive has just been on an utter storm. And they've had a phenomenal 2024. And if you looked at their results, it was just unbelievable with the daVinci 5 launch, but still also continued growth and push around the world with the XI. So we cannot underestimate that Intuitive is now ramped up. And Joe Mullings said it really well. For the sort of past 20 years, they've been competing against laparoscopy in the market and convincing people about robotics. So you've not seen them go into their kind of hyperdrive of competitive marketing and competitive commercial activity. You've seen a little bit of it. But generally, you've not seen them power that up. Now, in 2025, that is clear. If you look, they dominate LinkedIn. They dominate all of the meetings. They dominate the mind space of surgical robotics. They are thundering ahead with daVinci 5, clearly, and the installs. They are pushing into the lease model really hard, so we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And they are just ramping and amping up things where they've got differentiation, like the single port. You know, they are really pushing on the single port, and you can look at some of my previous podcasts, and you can look at some of my articles on the single port. That is going faster and harder, and you know, they've got more and more releases technologically wise on that, and I still expect some changes later this year that I still think could fit in by the end of this year. And then you've seen the rest of the companies out there, and we'll go through some of these. So I had my list of things that I thought would have been done, and some things have been done and some things have not been done. And I want to give you a recap of where we're at. So let me see if I can just do a bit of magic here. Aha, there we go. Right. So you'll have to stay with me on this because I'm going to sort of read off it. So this is my blog, and for those that have not been to my blog, I don't know how you got here, but maybe you saw it on YouTube or something. This is my blog, and if you go in there, you can get into some exclusive articles that will give you some insights into soft tissue surgical robotics, more coming on hard tissue, more endoluminal, more on endovascular, and different versions of robots that are coming in healthcare, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll show a little bit of my device talks slides, but I won't give it all away. And on this, and I have to switch here, so forgive me, hopefully this is scrolling correctly. But here's some of the predictions that I had back in November 2024, and now I have to see whether this is happening or not. And you've got to remember, I am an enthusiast, and I am always over-optimistic on some of the things, so let's see. I was predicting that daVinci 5 gets CE mark early in Q2. They didn't. They got some other around the world in some different places. They got different approvals of the daVinci 5. They've not yet got the CE mark. That doesn't surprise me too much because it's so hard to get the MDR at the minute and everyone's struggling. So I don't think we're going to see a June launch in European markets this year. But I still do predict that they will get CE mark this year. So I want to say that I do think that Intuitive, so this one here, will get CE mark this year. Over optimistic, saying they've got it in Q2. I think that they might get it in Q3, latest Q4. So that'll depend whether or not they do a European launch. But I do expect it to get CE mark this year. There shouldn't be any barriers to why not. They've got the evidence, they've got the technical files, so they should do that. Let's pop down to Medicoroid. Medicoroid are gearing up quite heavily in terms of sales, marketing, in terms of their infrastructure. They're also got lots of releases around other parts of Asia, where they've got different clearances around Asia. Singapore was one of them. So they are accelerating. And the fact that they've taken on some people like Marco Zambanini, who great guy, who is now with them, it shows that they're getting ready for a launch. So they're expecting CE mark now. I'm still predicting they're going to get it Q3. I think just by the timing of when they did the submission to when it should be, I think Hinatori is going to hit the streets in Q3. This is one that I didn't quite get. Medtronic Hugo gets FDA clearance for urology. A little bit optimistic on that one, but they've done the submission for it. So I'm going to push this all out by 2 quarters, which is about 180 days. And I think that's more realistic. So if I was to rewrite this again now, what I would say is they get clearance in Q3 for the US, and then expansion will be Q1 2026 into gynecological and hernia. Although they have completed the gynecology and the hernia data. So I do expect that one of the next big announcements will be that Medtronic will be on the market FDA this year. Whether they'll go hardcore commercial or not, I can't say. But I do believe that we are going to see one of the big three, which will be Intuitive, Medtronic and JNJ. I'll call them the big three for now, just because for convenience. They will get on market, I think, in the USA this year. So watch out for that one. And I think that'll be quite interesting. So they won't get the first commercial cases now, push it out to Q3. And I think the first commercial sales, I think they will be able to get 1 or 2 sales in or structured deals in before the end of this year. So I'm still predicting that. So let's talk about CMR Surgical Versius, first US clinical cases. They may have done them. I don't know. They have got the clearance, which is brilliant for them, for CMR. And there was the big news that the Financial Times dropped this week. Well, let's dig into that, which is that CMR Surgical is starting potentially, or the rumor is via the Financial Times, which is a pretty good source usually, that CMR Surgical is putting up the for sale sign in a way with a 4 billion price tag on it. And I'm, hands up, I'm a shareholder, so I do want them to get sold. That would be lovely for people like me. But I think it would actually be right for the industry. I am biased because I think CMR Surgical is an amazingly good system. The Versius system is brilliant. I wouldn't have spent 6 years of my life on it if I didn't actually believe in the system. I think it is a genuine alternative. It's a differentiated alternative to Intuitive. It's not an Intuitive clone. It's not an XI clone. It gives you a very different concept of robotic surgery. It's not the XI paradigm. It is very different. But that system has become very, very capable in the OUS setting. So if you look at it now, there are over 35,000 procedures, which is big. There's over 200 installed base. And they're all ramping up and doing more and more cases. I wouldn't be surprised if by the mid-year we wouldn't see 40,000 case marker coming out in the next, I don't know, the next month or two. I wouldn't be surprised at the run rate that they're going, and it's accelerating. Big shift away from direct to distribution. So you're also going to see a lot more activity happening through the distribution out there. Does it make sense for a strategic to take this? Absolutely. If I was one of the strategics out there, even Intuitive, if I could, and I don't think I'd get through the FTC and the antitrust, but if I could, I would take them out. Because if somebody gets this system in their hands, it's a fairly potent weapon. And I think the problem for companies like CMR and a lot of other companies out there is scale. And I think that companies just like CMR, they just don't have the massive scale. And it's not the product that holds them back. I think it's just the scale and the volume that they can reach and the reach they've got into the market and the amount of sales force out there pushing this and the, the commercial leverage behind it. But I do see that they're going to make progress in the USA. Let's shift that out by 2 quarters. I think what you will see on the back of this now is that, very smart way that they've done this, which is just get over the line with the FDA, get the de novo done. Even if it's on a slightly older model of the system that's not currently out there now with the ICG and with the advanced energy. But that's okay, because what it means is you've got the de novo, so you become your self-predicate. When you got your self-predicate, it now becomes a question of doing 510Ks for expanded claims, expanded indication, expanded, change of software, change of instruments, change of adding advanced energy, ICG, etc. All become 510Ks. So expect to see in the next 6 months going forwards either some 510Ks that come out or some different approvals or expansions. And if they're smart, they'll wait till they've got as much armaments as possible on that system, on the CMR Versius system, before they go pushing into the US. Very capable system. And I do think that if any of the companies out there, strategics, were looking at how is surgery, how are they going to be involved in surgery in the next 5 to 10 years? Robotics is definitely there. Data, digital, AI is definitely there. And I think that CMR Surgical, if they've got the for sale sign up, is a very potent weapon that one of them could get. Which rolls me on to the next one, which is Stryker makes a bid to acquire Soft Tissue in Q2. Looks like I've missed that one. They may be more cautious than looking at it. Let's roll that out by 6 months. Moon or Distal Motion were my number one picks that they would go for. Why? Moon, because the 1788 tower remains the hero. ASCs is a focus. Moon has been doing a lot of good work getting into the ASCs, proving out their model, showing how they work. Distal Motion has been cranking as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. They've got their first traction into the ASCs. Greg Roche and his team there are doing a great job. So either of those two systems could be great for Stryker. But the left field could be CMR. Do they want to go more robotic capable or more laparoscopic capable? And that's the spectrum there. So you've got Moon at one end, which is laparoscopy 2.0, which is very powerful digital laparoscopy with assistance. You've got Distal that sits in the motion, which means you can do part of the case laparoscopic, stay scrubbed in, use the Dexter to do the bit where you need the robot, and then step back out into normal laparoscopy. Or you've got CMR, which is a fully capable surgical robot, which has got laparoscopic paradigms in terms of how you set it up, but you do sit at a console and it's a full robotic immersive experience. So Stryker's got a choice that they could have in there, and it just depends if Kevin Lobo and the team are really serious about staying in surgery for the next 5 to 10 years. They've got to do something here. You can't be in surgery if you're, is either as an imaging provider or an instrument provider or a consumable provider and be a serious player in that if you don't have a robot, a digital ecosystem, AI in there somewhere with agency, you're going to struggle. So I think Stryker's going to make a bid. I'm still convinced by the end of the year they're going to look at this. There's lots of rumors going around that their BD teams are all over the place looking at stuff. Just rumors, but I would still put some money that Stryker will do something. I've probably just got the timeline wrong there. So my crystal balls are not that good. So JNJ Otava starts first IDE cases. Bing, tick, got that. Eric Wilson and the team did the first cases down in Texas. And they did some bariatrics cases, and no news coming out whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. But I don't think you'd put a press release out saying, hey, we've done our cases if it was a train wreck. So that's really encouraging. And again, I want to just really state, Intuitive owns, dominates this market. The future is robotic, absolutely, in general surgery and thoracic surgery. We need powerful players keeping this market honest, open, innovation, different form factors. So you got Medtronic and JNJ, and I want both of those to really, really do well. Oh, let me turn my pings off. There we go. Go to Do Not Disturb. There we go. So I really want J&J to do well. I'm looking for news coming out of them soon. They are rightly being cautious, and they're not going to probably talk about those cases till recruitment's finished or until the actual trial is finished and they've got analysed results that they could put into a peer-reviewed article or submitted to FDA. But I think that the good news is that we got a big tick on that one, that in Q1 2025, they did start doing their first cases, and that's a massive step forward for them. Well done to the team out in J&J. Now, Virtual Incision gets procedural expansion and announces small diameter mirror system in 2025. Still can happen. They've got the colorectal indication. Gynecology is the next step in, and they've touted around their smaller diameter. I think that can still happen in 2025. It's not easy. Smaller companies find this hard. Lots of reasons why. There's reasons about just how much mass, how much focus, how many oceans you can boil at once as a smaller company. So I think that they will get that done this year because it's a 510K, and I think they might see that indication come in, which will be great for them. And again, Virtual Incision, go and look at the blog post I did. Very, very different system to anything else that's out there. Now, I've seen Moon Surgical get significant upgrades in their vision system, their agency system, and adds on. Whether they'll get that into the USA model this year, I still think they could get it on track for Q3. I did see the team when I was at MBT this year, which is Eric Wilson's meeting. They showed me a deep dive into all of their agentic work that they're working on and their imaging systems and their ScoPilot upgrades and all of that. I think they've got clearance of the ScoPilot now that's gone in, which is great, and they're going to get more and more of this coming. And that's one of these beauties of systems. Once you've got the main architectural system in, a lot of this then is just software upgrades, which, the software engineers will kill me for saying it's easy, because it's not easy, but it's easier to do a lot of those than physical mechanical stuff. So great. Dexter Distal Motion gets first commercial traction in ASC's Q1. Tick, bingo. Great to see Greg Roche and the team getting first commercial traction there. These are commercial cases, paid cases. It's going to prove out their model. So that is really good that those two companies are pushing hard, because I think they're a slightly different segment than going head to head and running head to head on into Intuitive. And I think they're both probably going to chase. It doesn't mean they can only work in the ASCs, but they're both probably going to go in there because that's where there's a huge gap in the market. And the ASCs is going to become a major battleground for surgical robotics, AI, and digital in the coming in the coming years. And the healthcare system in the US wants to push it into the ASCs. So really good to see those two companies going well on that. SS Innovations get FDA clearance Q3. Still possible, still probable. We saw they made a big announcement regarding the NASDAQ yesterday. They are powering along. They've got lots of placements going on, huge push into cardiac. Saw them at ISMIX just recently that they were showing there. That team there is doing a great job and, waving the Indian flag very well. But let's not forget that, they are going to come to the US, and I still think that SSI, Surgical Innovations, they could get FDA clearance by the end of Q3. So fingers crossed for them. That would be great to see another system get it. Likewise, Toumai. Been very impressed with Toumai, and we'll come to that a little bit in a minute about the Chinese robots. I still think they could get FDA clearance by Q4. They continuously show that they get clearances across the world, including MDR, which is very, very difficult, and they've got that. We see continued expansion of Toumai. They really are putting a footprint outside of China. Brazil is another area where they're doing it, Latin America, and Europe's going well. And I think they might get broad indications because they'll use the XI as a predicate. If they can do that, they'll get broad indications. That would give them an advantage over a lot of people. Vicarious Surgical, yes, they are making progress. And I think I've got that one right, that they're submitting for the IDE. So well done for them. I know they've just been making their first clinical systems in their factory. They put that onto LinkedIn. So Vicarious Surgical continues to move ahead. It's hard, and that team shouldn't be disheartened. It is really, really hard. Yeah, Bitrak expands the use. They are doing road shows around with Bitrak. They are moving it around different hospitals. Again, hard for a small Spanish company, but the system is actually quite nice. It's got some features that are fairly unique to others. And if you've not seen Rob Surgical's Bitrak, do go and take a look at it. Quite an interesting set of concepts, and it does include things like working sterile at it if you wish, using a lot of the off-the-shelf scopes, instruments. You can use rigid standard instruments, or you can use their proprietary wristed instruments. Very nice, hard lift, but you are seeing more and more activity of Rob Surgical in 2025, so that's good. Now, Toumai gets first West European sales. They've got lots of sales. So we've seen in Spain, they've got commercial cases going on. We've seen it in Belgium with Alex Motry and his team, and cases going very, very fast, including a lot of the Teles Surgical cases, which I think they've got the edge on everybody for Teles Surgery at the minute. I think that we'll come back to that in one of the points further down, but Teles Surgery, it was hard for me to understand at first, but again, I've done a blog on this. You've got to get your head around of what's the real world use cases. And it's probably not a hospital sat there, surgeons twiddling their thumbs, hoping to operate from Rome to Dubai on a daily basis and make money. Not going to happen. But there are use cases for it for telepreceptoring, which is more advanced than teleproctoring. I think there's use cases for it where, for example, you have one hospital which is in the city centre at one area, and they have a private or a satellite area in either within the city or nearby. And rather than the surgeons get up, get in a car, go over there, find parking, waste two hours of windshield time, then go in, go and get their robot going there, do the cases, couple of cases, come back to the main hospital. Very poor use of time. Is there a use case where the surgeon can finish their case in the main hospital, then plug in to the network, the team over at the other hospital sets up the case, they do the case, remote telesurgery, the case is done, surgeon then continues with their cases in the main hospital. Save 2 hours of time back and forwards and parking. Very good use and utilization of healthcare time and resources. So I think those kind of use cases are going to be very powerful. And we've seen that already in Spain. We've seen it already in Aalst in Belgium. We're going to see it very soon in Rome, I think, because there's the team over at Gemelli that are working with Toumai. And I think we're going to see it there soon as well. So great stuff. Shout out to Cash, my mate Cash, who runs that in Europe. And we are seeing more and more systems getting into Europe with Toumai. So people are, they are wanting an alternative to an XI. And for those that haven't tried it, they should get on the Toumai. I keep saying it's an XI looking beast, but it's actually got a lot of new running gear under there that is not like the XI. So I think that that's really powerful and important. Intuitive announces the retrofit of the DV5 tower and compatible with the XI, X and XP in Q3. I'm still convinced of this. I'm still convinced that it may not be this year. I may have just got the supply chain ability wrong on this. But it makes total sense that that beautiful tower that they've created, the DV tower with the insufflation and everything, would just make sense for the XI, the X, the SP, and starts to bring the lines together, but with different capabilities. I mean, you wouldn't give the XI the force feedback capability. That's a differentiator. You might not give it some of the imaging capabilities that are coming. But from a supply chain point of view, you want to try and, you don't want to have a mushrooming amount of SKUs. And the more that you can try and bring them in, the better. And with the push on the SP, I do think they'll go to SP Plus, or whatever they want to call it, SPX or XP Super or whatever they want to call it. I'm still convinced that they are going to put that tower and that new console with the SP arm, and you're going to end up with, I think, the console and the tower are going to become the shared components, and then the bedside components are going to be the differentiators between your different tiers and your different capabilities like an SP. Q3, maybe I'm being a bit ambitious there. Will we see it? Let's see at SRS what they announce. It's speculative on my part, very speculative, but it just makes sense from a company point of view. And again, companies like Intuitive are not stupid in the way they do supply chain, and they do range of products. You know, when they went from the SI to the XI into the X became using the instruments that were from the XI because you have the same parts bin, and that just makes just leverages your whole manufacturing. I won't get into it in too deep now, but I think there's sense of why you would have the bedside arms different, but you would have the tower and the console the same, but you would nix some of the capabilities depending on your grade of system that you get. Let's see how that goes. So point number 18, Tele Robotics gets more traction. I think it is. I think it's getting way more than you think. We've seen SSI doing Tele Robotics in cardiac. Big shout out to them for doing that. That's bold, brave, very, very good. Toumai is doing that. You know, we're seeing Medicoroid doing that in Japan. And I do hear the rumors that the intuitive systems before the end of this year will turn on their capability. Now they've got it. We know they've got it. I mean, basically it's a longer cable, right? So they've never turned it on for very good reasons, which was they were trying to get expansion of the systems. But now that Tele Surgery is becoming more and more of a real thing, I do think that they have to turn it on to be competitive. I know they're losing a couple of deals in a couple of places because people want the Tele Surgical capability. Real, unreal, useful, not useful, doesn't matter. It's the new hot sauce, so they are definitely going to need to have that turned on. Prediction is by Q4 they will start doing limited use of telesurgical releases to certain customers in a kind of beta test by the end of the year. So let's see whether I got that right at the end of the year. I'll do a final year review and I'll just look how stupid I look at the end of that, so I apologise. But that's what I think it is. Staple battle heats up with faster movement to the robotic space stapling. I think there's a lot of that, and I've released some data, and I want to release the new data. Walt, Orca 1, give me the data, please. I want to release the data where you're seeing a move over to the staplers. And again, if Medtronic or J&J can get their staplers onto their systems, that's going to take off. Now, I have seen a video of one of the Chinese systems, and I've seen their stapler. Not going to say which one it is, but it looked good. It looked really, really good as a stapler. And you got companies like Panther. Don't forget Panther's coming out, which is a stapling company that's building a robot to hang their staplers on. Stapling is coming at high power. There are some really interesting stapling systems that might get onto robots. Big shout out to Rev Medica, by the way. If you're not seeing Rev Medica's stapler, go look at Rev Medica's stapler. Give Tom and the team there and Steve Lampkin and those over there a big shout out, support. Very interesting stapler. but people are thinking about smart next generation staplers, and I think that stapling on robots is going to become an absolute must. It'll be table stakes, and if you've not got a stapler, you're going to struggle. So things like Moon, you can still use your hand staplers, so you're going to still see that. But I think we've crossed over the 35% robotic stapling, and now you're seeing sub 30% in the manual stapling in some areas of the world. So surgical stapling is going to be big. I think I've got that one right. Scene analysis, perioperative assistance, post-operative assistance, all these things are coming, and I'm seeing it. Interestingly, Intuitive is not pushing out that so hard yet, but more and more software drops coming. That capability is latent within them. They've talked a lot about their NVIDIA chipsets that are in there and the power that they've got working with NVIDIA. The 10,000 times compute is never put out there by mistake. Scene recognition, some of the powers of their AI stuff. Definitely on the app side, it's doing more and more. And if you look at, they've released the Intuitive app Plus, or the next generation, which has got even more capability in there for analysis, insights, and pushing insights back to the user with their clinical insights. More and more of that is coming. Some of it's going to be on platform, so you're going to have lots of scene recognition on platform. Some of it's off platform. By the end of this year, we are going to see that rolled out, no doubt about it. Okay, what do we get next? Market moves to lease. Yes, all going to lease. It's pushing like a freight train going to lease. Some people still want to deploy capital, but most people are going to either some kind of pay-per-click, lease, structured deal, get the capital in for a while, get to a number of cases. So, some interesting stuff with the daVinci 5. They're not just placing in the whole daVinci 5, but they're also placing in daVinci 5 towers. And we'll talk a little bit about the tower in a minute. It's becoming a really important battle. And we'll talk about that in detail in a minute, because that's down at 0.25. But leasing power is allowing this sort to happen. It's allowing access. There are different ways that it's done, but nobody's coming out with cheap capital. If you look at a lot of the robots that are out there, they're all still hovering around. The capital component of any deal is still hovering around about $1 million. And you need to be, again, shout out to the companies, and I'm looking at a few companies in particular, because if you think that it's still at $1.8 million or $2 million, it's not. So what you need to understand is that your capital component for you to be a viable business, be that as a capital sale, or the capital component in a tender bid, or in a GPO contracting, or in any way or place that you're putting in the capital, the calculation within your matrix needs to be at about $1 million. Okay, some places it's down at 500,000, 600,000. SSI are pushing that quite hard. Not about cheap robots. That's, if anyone said to me that's a cheap robot, I don't have 600,000 in my bank account to go and buy a cheap robot. Base it in 2025 at about $1 million for the capital, 1.2 if it's a premium, or 1.4 if it's a premium DV5. But if you're coming in with something like a Toumai or a CMR or something like that, I would be thinking you could probably get around about the 900,000 to $1 million as your capital component, but you're most likely going to put that into some complex lease deal, place deal, long-term rental, where the capital doesn't all get taken up front. It's heading that way. Intuitive shows more and more of that. So market starts to consolidate with some acquisitions. Now, interestingly, as I say, CMR Surgical put up a for sale sign on there. I think we're going to see more and more of this. We saw the Ascensus with Storz last year, doing a sensible job, by the way. Shout out to the Storz team and to the Ascensus team that they've managed to keep the two fairly separate, and the two teams are kind of operating fairly independent at the minute. That's the way that you do acquisition. There's a lot of tribal knowledge comes in when you take on a robot. Don't just drive a bus through that. And they seem to be letting them get on with it. And Luna should be coming along sooner than later. Let them just get on with it. Let them do that. But then integrate some of their bits like the Intelligent Surgical Unit into your Storz stuff. That's the way to do it. But I do see more and more market consolidation coming. I do see some interesting things that I've not got on here yet, but cardiac is going to be a big one. And I think we are going to see some of the cardiac companies potentially thinking about, do I need to have a robot to be viable in the future? And I don't necessarily mean a multi-arm soft surgical tissue robot, but we could be talking about things like Capstan Medical. Intuitive should take them, then they probably will take them. And I don't think it's this year, I think it's next year when they get more clinical data through. But I think companies like Edwards and some of the other valve companies have to start looking at valve technology, robotics. I think it's going to be important in the future for structural heart robots. I digress. Wasn't on there. Didn't predict that on there, but maybe it did. Okay. But the market starts to consolidate, and I think we're going to see the CMR for sale sign up there is one of the big triggers, and we're going to start to see some consolidation. I think some robots are just not going to make it. I think that we're going to see, I know this, there's a lot of drying up of the VC money going into these robotics companies. We've seen a fairly few draconian terms that go into some of these deals that are out there. I think that there's going to have to be some consolidation in the market, and we're going to see fizzle and fade away of a couple of robotic systems. There's 60 something soft tissue robots at the minute. A lot of those will fizzle and fade away, and some of it will be acquisitions. And I think that CMR is the start of that trend in a big way that we've seen here. And people will say, "Oh, 4 billion price tag, that's peanuts." If that's to protect your market for all your staplers and stuff in the future, that's peanuts. If it's to make sure that you stay relevant in the marketplace in the next 10 years, these numbers are not that crazy. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to see consolidation. Let's see what else we've got. Investment in the space hits a low. That's what I was talking about. I think we're seeing a low in terms of the investment. We're going to see the excitement start to pick up again. We're going to start seeing investment into not necessarily the multi-arms. I think in the multi-arms, that's kind of fairly much done. But I think what we're going to see is in the other spaces, more moves into things like Capstan Medical, XCath, some of the EndoQuest, Jupiter, a lot of the other robots that are coming that are slightly off and parallel. I think we're going to see investments into this. The dental robots, Lupin that I'm involved with. I think you're going to see some investments into the dental robots. You're going to see a lot of the other healthcare robots that are in there. And I'm not going to show all that now, but I might just show where we're at the end of this in terms of, or I'll try and put a slide in that I showed at Device Talks. There's a lot of healthcare robots out there, and I think there's going to be investment coming back into those. So look at things like, and big shout out to EndoQuest for the endoluminal, but also into Virtuoso with Duke Harrell and the team. Both of those got their first initial clinical cases in the recent weeks. These sort of, I don't want to call it a niche. I mean, bladder cancer and attacking the bladder in the way that Duke Harrell and his team does is as big as intuitive attacks for prostates, as big as the prostate market. So I don't want to call it a niche. I want to call it a sector or a segment. So if you look at EndoQuest for the endoluminal work they're doing, or you look at Virtuoso Surgical with Duke Harrell and his team, both of those did brilliant, and big shout out. There's on my post on the blog, you can look into some of that. These are brilliant things to see because we're seeing a vibrancy come in parallel areas of robotic surgery, and we don't have to just think that the whole world is XI configuration robots and going after the laparoscopy. A lot of exciting stuff in there. I think there's been a low period into the multi-arms, but I think we're going to start seeing more investment into the parallel robots. And big shout out to Maggie and her team for Capstan. I think they're going to be pioneers there, and we're going to see a huge push into structural heart and some of the cardiac robots. And SSI, another great big shout out to that team for doing more in the cardiac space. Going to be interesting. So several new tuck-in technologies like this. I think there are technologies being taken in small pieces around. You're probably not seeing it because they're not big announcements. But there's lots of little tuck-in technologies that are going in, lots of investments going into tuck-in technologies. And we're starting to see little bits and pieces that are coming into the digital architecture, into the AI architecture, into the robotics mechatronics architecture, into the instrument architecture. We're seeing little tuck-ins that are happening around everywhere. Whew, we're nearly through to 25, so I'm glad you're still with me. Thank you very much, and do subscribe to my blog or do subscribe to my channels. That's what keeps me going. That's what allows me to keep going on this, and I am trying to share as much knowledge as I can with you guys, and feedback is very important. And when I do LinkedIn posts, what's really important to me is that the more shares or shares with thoughts, or if you comment, share, comment, that all helps the algorithms to push my stuff out. The more that it pushes out, the wider we get this. The wider we get this, the more investment teams, commercial teams, marketing teams, we get the buzz going around the industry. That's, if you're not throwing money at me for some reason, which you don't need to, then that helps probably more than, throwing money at me. So just keep this going and give me the love, give me the vibe. That really helps. 25, the tower. So we've saw a maneuver recently by Ottava with Dualto and their system, which is a stackable system for electrosurgery, which I think will allow also a stackable system for vision, etc. How much integration that is with Ottava, I don't know. But all the renders of Ottava have a tower, and you would think any sensible company would be stealing out the parts bins. And I see some of the design cues, and I've done a whole massive blog on this about the design cue for Ottava and probably the way the software integrates. Are the two teams using exactly Dualto within Ottava? Hard to say, maybe, maybe not. But I think some of the design ethos and some of it is. But what it means is there's going to be towers with all these systems. So Medtronic Hugo has a tower, Toumai has a tower, CMR Surgical doesn't need a tower because of the way that it's done. You have all the other robots that are like in the intuitive class of robots have their own towers. And the daVinci 5 tower is an amazing tower and can be used in laparoscopic. So all these laparoscopic capable towers are going in as part of the robot deal. And if you're Storz or Olympus or more so Stryker, and a big chunk of your surgical ethos and business is based around your tower, you need to work this algorithm out. It's here, it's coming. These towers are going to get smarter, more capable, and I can use it for a robot case in the morning, but then I just don't use the robot, and I can use it for a laparoscopic case in the afternoon. They are eventually going to come with endoluminal endoscopic capabilities as well. So if you're in the tower business, the box business, which you've got to get out of the box business, if you're Wolf or you're Olympus, or where you build your business on selling boxes, you need to rethink your business. When Ottava comes out, that's going to eat the tower lunch of some people. With Dualto coming out, they are getting into the tower business. They're now in the imaging business. They're going to be in the insufflation business. They're going to be in the smoke clearing business. There's lots of things they're going to come and attack. So you're seeing this tower being a central piece, and that's where a lot of the brains are going to sit as well. And if you look at the Dualto design, sitting on the top of the Dualto, it's basically a brain unit. It's not the actual electrosurgery unit, it's the brain unit. And the brain unit is what's going to pass out this information back and forwards and throw insights back to the users, allow logins, smart electronic health records, looking how things are used. So the tower is going to become more and more powerful, and it's going to start dominating. And the ASC, watch out if you've got towers in the ASC, because you're going to start seeing more and more push into the ASCs. And interestingly, this year, you may or may not have been paying notice on the LinkedIn feeds or in some of the press feeds, but some of the team at Intuitive were very bullish as they were talking about they like to see in the local ASC daVinci 5s going in. So it started. The ASC drive has started this year, and Distal Motion, Moon, they've lots of announcements about them being in the ASCs. We're seeing the robotization. Is that a word? The robotization of the ASCs. We're seeing that going in now. So watch for that coming more and more, stronger and stronger. Right, data ecosystems, absolutely. If you're looking, they were seen as an add-on. But they're going to drive purchase decisions, and the digital ecosystems around it are going to become more and more important. Intuitive driving that very, very hard, but a lot of the others have very capable digital ecosystems. J&J having the polyphonic, which has been very quiet, but I think they need to push that more and need to show that more and show how it works across the ecosystem. Touch surgery and the advances in touch surgery are getting better. The Intuitive with the Intuitive Plus is getting better. The My Intuitive and the My Intuitive Plus. And you're starting to see all the other systems are starting to have some kind of digital ecosystem. And even, systems like Moon have shown that they have a disproportionate push towards their digital ecosystem. And some of the stuff that I've seen that they're capable of with OR scheduling, etc., just amazing. And you're obviously seeing a lot of companies around, like Care Syntax is there, Blackbox, Theator, Proximy. They're all realizing that this is going to be the way that it goes, and the robots are going to do it. The fear from me is you're going to end up with lots of fragmented systems that don't talk to each other. And if you're a software company out there and you could work out what I would call a Rosetta Stone that would allow you to somehow take all the data straight off the apps that are out there, put them together. So if I've got a Medtronic, I've got an Intuitive, and I've got a CMR sitting in the same hospital group, it would be nice if somebody makes a Rosetta Stone that allows you to read from all three of those apps. As long as you're logged in as the user, three of the apps, and this single Rosetta Stone will put all that data together. And that's capable because you may or may not have used ChatGPT lately, but if you go into the sort of the talking interaction system, go and press the three dots, and the three dots, then you can actually get it so that it activates and it reads into your phone, so you can actually read your phone screen. So if I was to open, for example, the My Intuitive app, and the ChatGPT looks at that with me, it can summarize it. You don't need an appy to actually take it out. It can actually interpret the screen and take that out. So I think some clever group is going to guide us and say, what we're going to do is we're going to make a ChatGPT-like Rosetta Stone that's going to be able to read all your apps. And at the end of the day, you just open your three apps, scroll through them pretty quickly, and then that app will summarize it up. So look for apps, look for data architecture, going to be bigger. Hospitals want it. Hospitals will demand it. Okay, companies will start to strategize deeper on portfolios. I think they're all going to have a base entry system, but as you've seen with Intuitive, they're doing a very good job of layering this. So you've got the premium end DV5, you've got your workhorse XI, you've got your entry level X, and then you've got a second segment, which is the SP and the whole single port. And I think you'll have a premium single port and you'll have an entry level single port. And you're going to start seeing companies pass this out. Toumai is doing a good job of it as well. They've got the Toumai. I expect to see a premium Toumai coming soon. I think that's on the cards. And I think they've already got their equivalent of an SP, their single port. A lot of the other companies have got single ports out there. So you're starting to see this stratification of the systems out there. And you're going to have to do this because you're going to have to segment your markets. So there's parts of the world or parts even of different big markets like the US that are not going to need the full super brutal horsepower of a DV5, but they might need some kind of robotic capability like a Dexter. Okay, so you're going to start seeing companies also potentially even make some tuck-in acquisitions. Maybe not in 2025, but I think it's coming. Let's talk about Chinese companies. I think we've seen this. Everyone's going out there to do lots, and then they're all going to retreat back a little bit. Toumai is not. That's Microport Medbot. They are definitely advancing and coming and continuing. I think some of the ones like Kang Duo, I think they've put the toe in the water, realize it's really hard outside of China. And I think there's a lot of those will retreat back in and do a nice little business in China. I'm not saying they're not going to do a good business. But what I do think will happen is that the companies will become few and far between of the Chinese. It's not going to be a flood of 1,000 Chinese robots across everywhere. There's lots and lots of them. Go to my blog, buy my chart. My chart will take you through the massive Chinese robots that are out there. A lot of them won't survive and won't come. But I think what you're going to see is that a couple of them will, and I think Toumai may have got over their valley of death of that, and they may now be doing it. And again, Europe, we're already starting now to see the increased amount of installations of the Toumais, and as they start to reach critical mass, we'll see that. Plus, they've done a lot in North Africa, and they're going to Central Africa, Angola, places like this. You're going to see the Chinese teams are going to go to places where historically you may not have seen some of the daVinci stuff, and I think we'll open up some markets there. But I don't think it's going to be lots of Chinese robots everywhere. Big shout out to Renovo though. Renovo with their Krina system, they got a good clearance in China. They are now commercial in China. They'll learn a lot of things off the back of that. Prepare to see potentially some modifications to their system, but they're all out there, right? And I think you might see one boom from China, some just Toumai, and I think you'll see one modular system from China, such as Renovo, having success around the world. Whew, I'm running out of breath. 29, almost there, folks. Stay with me. Now, as robotic ligashore hits the market, and I think it'll still come by Q4 2025, speculation there. But what we're seeing already is that you've seen Versius has put on their Harmonic. You've got all of the Chinese robots have a version of the Harmonic that are on their different ultrasonic technologies. More and more coming electrosurgical technologies, some straight, some wristed, due for release. And I think that what we're going to see more is more and more advanced energy just becoming table stakes on the systems. And when you go to tenders and it's going to have that box, do you have an advanced energy? You're going to have to tick that, right? So it will be beyond conception that Ottava is not going to come out without ultracision on it. No, I don't think they call it ultracision anymore. That's showing my age. The harmonic scalpel, the harmonic range from JNJ, which is like the class leader in harmonics. It would be mad if that doesn't come out. And again, with Dualto getting all this capability for their end-seal systems, again, I cannot perceivably imagine that they're going to launch that system without having a harmonic and a end-seal, either straight or potentially articulated, and maybe even an articulated ultrasonic, which would be cool. There's a lot of patents that float about that, but I think you'll see that more. And Medtronic for sure, class leader with ligashore, they are going to come out with a ligashore absolutely by the end of this year. And I think you might see some upgrades to Synchroseal. You might see a smaller, finer tip. You might see a longer tip. You might see just a better cutting capability. You're going to see algorithmic changes within the towers to make that better. And again, you might even see by the end of the year, speculation, but there is the microwave version of the sealer that they have that was done with Creo Medical. Go to the Creo website and see that. And Filippo Filicori put it up at NBT this year. So you might actually see that become a commercial product later this year, as you'll see what they might call Seal Plus or something, but a Micro Plus or whatever. But microwave technology is going to be another one that hits the market very, very soon on some of these systems. And as soon as they hit it, you're going to see the clones come. But that's probably more protected technology, the microwave, and it's not that easy, by the way. 30. Yeah, the global talent race. I can tell you, as more and more CEOs are needed for some of these companies, as you need more marketing people, and as they go into the commercial phase, you're going to see a land grab for the commercial talent. But what I think you're also going to see is not just the new companies coming. I think you're seeing this from companies like J&J. If you look at some of the hires they're making into their Monarch places, you've got people who've come from the surgical robotics space. I think you're going to start seeing that there's going to be veterans in this space who know how to do it. And as teams expand and as companies expand, they're going to realize that maybe some of the people that were taken on, which are, I would say, from the classical side of the analog business, staplers and things like that, may not be the people that you need as a total team to take the team forward. You're going to need some of this, what I call robotic scar tissue in there. And those people are few and far between, actually. You'll see that the people who've really done it, and I don't mean people that were in Intuitive and helped to grow Intuitive from a very big base to an enormous base. I'm talking about people who've gone from zero to hero against Intuitive. I think that those people are going to become rare commodities within the marketplace. I know that I'm in demand a lot, all over the place for talking and for giving talks to companies. So I think if it's, if they reach out to people to me, then there's people out there with a lot of talent. You look at example Cash, who went to Toumai, massive. He'd been at Medtronic, been at Distal Motion, came across and done Toumai. these people have got huge experiences. So I think there's a lot of people out there in the robotic space that are going to go across. And then what you're going to see as well is you're going to take people from the laparoscopic space who are going to go across to things like cardiac robotics or endoluminal robotics. And the reason for that is that a lot of the capital knowledge that's behind this stands, whether it's a cardiac robot, an interventional cardiac robot, if it's a neurological robot, if it's a dental robot. You've got people like Ollie Tinserini, who's gone across to he's got the loop in dental, taking across his intuitive experience with Huron being on the board. So there's a lot of people going in that have got robotics experience. I think that global talent pool, it will accelerate above and beyond 2025. And companies are going to start realizing that these people are premium players. And as the pools dry up and people start getting taken in, those premium players that know how to do it will become more and more rare. So I think we'll see that in the talent pool. And again, let Joe Mullings speak to that, because Joe is far better at understanding that than me. But I'm seeing it personally, and a lot of my friends and colleagues across this industry are being scooped up to do that. And it's wise. And, people should be out there. It's a little bit like soccer, and I'm not a huge soccer fan anymore, although I'm from Liverpool. Just saying that they did win the league this year, just in case there's any Man U fans out there looking at that. Sorry. But what you've got is you've got a couple of superstar players that you bring into your teams, the Ronaldos and the Messis and this, or if you've got another sports thing that you want to talk about. Those few players make the difference. They're the ones that make the real difference. And I think that the global talent pool of those superstars out there is limited. And those few players with a proven track record are the catalyst that will make the difference between your robotic company surviving and failing when it gets especially into the commercial phase. Everyone can make an R&D robot. Everyone can get a robot through the first clinicals and the first initial clinicals. But do they know how to make a sustainable, scalable company that survives the storms of the commercial reality when they get out there? There's a few out there, and you need to go and find them, because they'll make the difference between whether your company survives or fails. So that's it. So back to the speculation. Intuitive drop news on the handheld stapling and energy. I did a whole thing about this, which is where I don't know if they're going to sell it themselves. I've thought and reflected on this a lot. They have the technology. They have the tower for manual laparoscopy. Not every case can be done 100% robotic. Still think by the end of the year, there'll be something out there with Hologic where they talk about this. It's just a lot of the patents that I keep looking at, and a lot of the sort of the way the market's going towards the blended open lap robotic, more going to lap and robotic. Minimal access surgery is getting faster and faster. I just think there's something here still. And why would they leave money on the table? Why would they leave themselves open to allow a Medtronic or a J&J or a Panther or a Frankenman to come in and steal some of their business that they could actually get some money off it? Whether they physically do it, I don't know. But they're not just a robotic company. They're a minimal access company, and they've said it over and over again. And Gary said it. Oh, by the way, that was big news. I didn't predict that Gary would step more to the side and Dave Rose would take over. Well done, Dave. Very much deserved. Well done, Intuitive. That's how you do management changes. That's how you do succession planning. That's how you do it. Just big shout out to the team there. But they're not a committed robotic company. They're a committed getting patients the best care in the best way, which includes minimal access. And philosophically, there's no reason why they couldn't take their technologies. And if it was applied by hand through a partner company, why wouldn't they do that? So don't know. In there, that's kind of how it is. So I didn't get all those predictions right so far. I got some of those predictions right. There's been a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on. I've probably not caught it all, and please put in the comments, because that really helps in LinkedIn or on my YouTube or whatever, that, you know, if I've missed important stuff, ask me about it. I'll tell you. I'm trying to do this all out of memory. I've got no notes here except for that list. But But the themes are still running. Tele Surgery, telepresence, Teles Surgery is getting bigger and bigger, and proctors are becoming a bottleneck, so you need to do that. We are definitely seeing AI getting more and more shout, a lot of hype, but there are going to be real use cases of AI in there. Intuitive continues to dominate, but we are seeing the glimmers of Medtronic about to get their FDA, I'm convinced. JNJ IAD progression, CMR Surgical up for sale, big changes coming, big exciting times. So how do I conclude this? I think when I was at SRS last year, I made a fairly dire prediction that Intuitive will be just a dominant and it's hard for anybody else. I still believe that they are, for the next 10 years, going to be the dominant force in this. There's no doubt about it. But I do think that Medtronic and J&J can work this out and work it out in a compelling way. If I was J&J, I would buy CMR Surgical tomorrow. I would just do that. It gives you optionality. And everyone's going to say, oh, they've already spent billions on Verb and Auris. Too big to lose. The market's too big to lose. And if I was whacking Duarto and I want to seriously keep medtech and pharma together, then two things you need to sort out. One is the surgery side with robotics, and Ottava may not be the only answer. And if you want to get rapid because time is not on your side, then I would just go and buy CMR. Don't care how much it would cost. I would make a serious bid on that. Because again, if a striker gets hold of it, disaster for J&J, because that's going to put even more pressure on them. Especially if they've already got FDA with CMR. Medtronic, I think, are going to come stronger. I think they've got the one thing that J&J doesn't have, which is scar tissue. They've been out and they've actually had the rubber on the road. They know what it means, and they're adjusting and they're going to work it out, and they're going to say what they need to do with Hugo. They're going to say what they need to do with how they approach the market, because they've got genuine experience now that they can be on. Stryker, hey Kevin, you're sitting on the sidelines too long, my friend. There's a point when it reaches a tipping point, because it takes time for you to absorb something and get it going. And if you and your BD team think you're being finessed, let's see how it goes. Let's see where it goes. Let's see how much traction they get. Let's see if any of these other systems really can get traction. I think you're playing a very dangerous game of chicken. And I wouldn't want to be doing that. Not for a small chip bet. And not small chips. These are going to be from $500 million to a $3 to a $4 billion acquisition. Can you afford not to do it? If you're Olympus, can you afford not to be in robotics at the minute? Can you afford to let Storz take the lead on you? And if they make a census work, if they make Senhance work, maybe not so much, they're probably backing right off on that. But if you make Luna work, if they get that robotics capability into their systems, you will be looking like a very out of touch company. Endoluminal robotics, obviously, clearly where they should be going, somewhere like that. Intuitive, they are just going to keep pressing the pedal, and it's just going to keep going. That doesn't mean that because they keep going, that it's not worth investing into this area. It absolutely is. Every investor out there should be doubling. If you've already got investments into a robotic company, you should be doubling down on that. No doubt about it. You should be in this. If you are a company that's in this surgical space and you're not getting digital, AI, and robotic, you've got to start thinking about how do you roll up with one of these robots. So again, another one that I always find interesting is applied medical. If I was a big PE, what would I be doing? I would be putting together applied medical, CMR Surgical, Proximy, a couple of other things, maybe Care Syntax, putting the whole thing together and coming up with a very interesting company that could be very powerful in the world of surgery. To the investors and to the analysts and to everybody, this is a vibrant space. This is a big space. This is an important space. This is a growing space, not necessarily directly in the multi-arm robots, but it's going to be there. It's still going to grow, and it's accelerating at a rate that even I wasn't expecting in terms of the deployments of systems. It's worth investing in. Orthogonal robots, so robots that are adjacents, so capstan medicals, XCaths, endoquests, endoluminal, endovascular, dental. These all should be massive areas where investors are putting their monies, and strategics, by the way, as well. Don't do, if you're looking at dental, don't do the lesson that J&J and Medtronic learned much later on, which is, let's see how it goes. It's going to go, period. So dental robots are coming. You've got Yomi, Perceptive, Lupan, Dental One. You've got all these robots that are coming. It's one of the next areas. If you're looking at things like imaging robotics are coming at speed. Ultrasound robots, histosonics, things like this, histotripsy, and different variations of that. Pulse field energies are going to be delivered by robots. This is the time to invest. This is the time to go. So my mid-year review, and I hope to see you all at SRS, by the way, who's going to be there. My mid-year review is, it's accelerated, it's exciting, lots of movement out there, lots of really good things happening, more IDEs, more FDAs, more CE marks coming, more product advancements, more feature sets being put out, more digital sets, more AI, NVIDIA powering this thing like you wouldn't believe. They're pushing everyone with Holoscan Bridge and the more. This is an exciting time to be in any form of surgical robotics, be that MMI or Microshore or looking at maybe even Sony will get in on theirs. These are exciting times for all of this industry to be getting behind this. And I've not even touched on the spine robots. I want a big shout out to Yossi Bar and Lem Surgical. Lem Surgical, if you don't know spine robots are basically just glorified sort of guide holders that work with navigation, and you manually drill through them or whatever. The Yossi Bars raise the bar. Then is that good? No. So Yossi Bars raised the bar, and Lem Surgical is working with dual arm robots that are going towards autonomy and full autonomy. We are going to see more and more autonomy piling into it's going to start in the hard tissue robots because it's easier there. So Lupan autonomous dental prep for veneers. You're seeing autonomous robots doing drilling for implants. You're seeing autonomous robots are going to come into spine with things like Lem Surgical. And then you can see autonomous steps. So again, didn't shout out to a lot of the others who were out there. So, Histosonics works in a semi-autonomous way. You've got Andromeda Surgical, Nick Damiano and the crew. Big shout out to you guys because you also did your cases this year. And if you've not seen Andromeda, get to Andromeda Surgical. Doing autonomous based HOLEP. If you know what HOLEP is, it's a holium laser for prostates. Really interesting stuff. This is pioneering times for autonomy and autonomy assisted and automation assisted and automatic assisted robots. I'm running out of breath myself. It's so exciting. But if you're in the investment communities, get yourselves to Scott Pantel's LSI. See some of the stuff that's going on there. Panda Surgical, another one. Shout out to you guys doing ENT. So sorry, my friends, I've missed out some of your robots, but these are so exciting times in this where people are pushing the boundaries, and it's not all looking like a big XI. It's looking like different ways of using using robots, autonomy, automation, digital data, AI to push the boundaries. A lot of them won't survive. That's fine. That's just the way the startup world rolls. But I think that there's going to be a lot of excitement into this space, and investors be putting your money in. Get to LSI, they're good things to do. Get to Device Talks. Big shout out to Tom there, not still to Tom today, and thanks very much. He's pushing the boundaries. And Device Talks was interesting for me because it's not just the pure medical device robot companies that are there. There are a lot of amazing humanoid robots, and there was Boston Dynamics and stuff like that, and millions of suppliers there. You should get to that one time if you're in this space. Now shout out to the commercial teams, because I get a huge amount of commercial teams that either come to me just liking the content, or a lot of them actually ask me for thoughts of where to go, what to do, are we moving into this, etc. Yes, it's time to move into this. It's an exciting space to be in. There's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of upsizing and downsizing of sales forces. But I think the general direction is a bit like the stock market. It'll fluctuate up and down, but the general direction is going that way. And a lot of people ask me, should I consider going and working for Intuitive? Absolutely, 100%. Brilliant company. You want to go and cut your teeth in robotics, that's a great place to be. But don't rule out companies like JNJ. Don't rule out companies like Medtronic. Brilliant universities, amazing companies. And they are starting to get the robotics thing. You know, I've been really hard on them in the past, but now they're starting to get it and they're starting to understand it. There are opportunities growing with some of the other small startups, the Renovos, you've got the Distals, Moons, you've got the Toumais and some of the Chinese robots coming across. Again, good companies. You know, go work for Cash in Europe if you're in Europe. Great guy, really understands how to run a business, very exciting. And there's lots of opportunities coming in places like Latin America. You know, there's a lot of work going on in LATAM. And then Asia, Southeast Asia, that whole area there, expanding at speed. So I am coming up now to 1 hour 15. I do apologize, it's a long one, but this has been just an exciting year. And I hope you get my enthusiasm that's coming out on this, because I just love doing this. And sorry if I've made some mistakes. I often make mistakes because I am getting more fuddled in my age as I go. But it's an exciting time to be in robotics. Grab me at SRS. Always reach out to me. Please follow the blog. Please sign up to the exclusive contents. I try and make that a bit more exclusive behind a paywall, again, just to stop it stops all the AI systems scraping my stuff and just putting it in there, because I work my ass off to put a lot of this stuff together. If you need to buy my time, buy my time. You go on my website, how to start up in medtech.com. You can just buy my time as an advisor. I try and help everybody. I'm a firm believer that a rising tide lifts all boats, and I want everyone to be successful. I want this to be a vibrant, growing ecosystem of surgical robots in all kinds of robots: soft tissue, hard tissue, dental, restorative. I want to see them in cardiac, neurovascular. I want to see them in endolume. I want to see the whole thing go up, because it's really, ultimately, really, really good for the patients. Going to leave it as that for now and today. I hope this has been useful. Correct me when I'm wrong. I'd like to be corrected, and I always try and shout that out to everybody. I am going to go and get a coffee now, because I'm absolutely knackered after doing that. It's draining for me. I hope you enjoy the content. Please comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. It massively helps me to get the content out there, and it gives me encouragement to keep doing more than anything else. And if you've seen this on LinkedIn, comment, share, repost, please. It's really, really important that you do that for me. And on my blog, encourage people to come there. And I will be doing an update, a mid-year update of the big sheet that I've got on there. So I've got that sheet with all the 67 robots or whatever on there at the minute in Soft Tissue Surgical Robotics. That's going to get an update, because there's so much stuff to update on that. And there's some new companies on there that you will not have seen. I guarantee, because I've got 2 or 3 companies that have confided in me, and a couple of them are going to allow me to put it into that release. So you're going to see a couple of new names of robots that are on there, which are going to be very exciting. Some from players that exist in the world, some that you've never seen before, some startups. So yeah, that's it. Thank you again for staying with me. And if you're here right till the end, you are a glutton for punishment. That's 1 hour 15, and I really hope that's been useful to you, and I will catch you very soon. Thank you.